Hey footy fans, welcome to the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast. I'm your host Dave, and today we're going back in the day with one of New Zealand's national treasures. He's a rugby league legend in New Zealand. It's the one and only Frank Endacott. How are you, man?
Oh, never been better, Dave. Good for an old bugger.
Mate, thank you so much for coming on the show. An absolute treat to have Frank Endacott. I've been really looking forward to this one. So I hear you've been quite busy of late, back in the rugby league world, getting quite involved with an NRL bid here in the South Island.
Well, you know, there's one question I can't answer today in depth is that, and I'm sorry to say that, but being president of the South Island bid, it's well into the process, and the NRL have instructed us in no uncertain words that we can't say anything to social media or public while the process is taking place. So,
Okay.
Unfortunately, I could speak for a couple of hours on that, but I can't. Sorry.
It's not a problem. But is it great to be back involved in like a pretty big capacity again, back in rugby league?
Yeah, well, I've always been involved in some form or another for every year for the last, 61 years or something. So apart from 1 year in rugby union, it was, it'd be 60 years in rugby league. So, and I've done something every year.
Yeah.
So, everything from a player to a coach to a president and, and everything in between.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, me personally, I've had lots of conversations with people about an NRL bid from Christchurch or the South Island. I'm very excited about the prospect. Even if it doesn't happen this time around, there's always potential down the road, so that would be unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about it, but
lips are sealed for now.
Yeah.
No worries. Right, so let's rewind the clock. Frank Endacott, where did you grow up? What was life like for you 60 odd years ago?
Oh, well, I can go back to 1952.
Oh my God.
1952 when I was a kid, a 4-year-old in Emmett Street, Shirley.
Okay.
And, and I don't know whether you know Emmett Street, but those massive trees in Emmett Street.
Right.
I can remember standing there watching them plant those trees.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And you see them now and you think, wow, that was over 70 years ago. I can still remember them planting them.
Far out.
So I remember before Emmett Street was even sealed, it was still clay.
Okay.
And our houses were being built at that time, brand new state houses, and to get into one, we had to spend a couple of years at the Harewood Transit Camp.
Okay.
Where the American Air Base is,
Yes.
Now. And we were there and just waiting for a state house to come up, and we got the offer of one in Shirley, or I can't remember it, but Mum and Dad did. And we lived the first 10 years of our life there.
Far out. That's fantastic. So where did the rugby league come in? Where did that first start for you?
Well, because it was a new housing suburb, my father and 2 or 3 of his mates got together and formed the Shirley Rugby League Club,
okay,
the Hawks. And, we weren't called the Hawks then, it was just Shirley Rugby League. And because every kid in the district wanted to play, and we just went out on McFarlane Park, and our house backed onto McFarlane Park.
Right.
And we just used to go through the gate and into the park, and I used to go out there with my mates till it was black, it was dark. And I can still remember seeing the light in the porch and Mum yelling out, "Come on, Frankie, come and have tea now." And,
awesome.
And that's how it started. It was a group of, none of us were well off. We all had humble beginnings.
Yes.
It was a pretty poor settlement, and but by gee, people were close.
Yeah.
And I still see people from there today, and you still feel like a close family, because that's what we were then.
That's amazing. So you've pretty much been in Christchurch your whole life, haven't you?
I was born here. I was born in Christchurch. I did a year's schooling in Sydney.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in 1962. I played with Moore Park in the South Sydney group.
Really?
Yeah, I did. It was interesting training with guys like Bobby McCarthy and Ron Coote.
Wow.
Who were 2 of the greatest players of all time.
Unreal.
And I was the grade under them, but I used to, couple of grades under them, but we used to train together.
Okay.
At Waterloo Park and near Redfern Park.
Amazing.
So then we went up. Then I went up to Auckland with the Warriors. I was up there for 9 years in Auckland, living in Auckland, and I spent 3.5 years in England.
Okay.
At Widnes and Wigan and that. So apart from that, I've lived all my life here in Christchurch.
Yeah. What is it about Christchurch for you that is so special. Like, because I've only moved here, been here a year and a half. Yeah. I'm never leaving. It's amazing. Like,
well, I'll be honest with you. I absolutely love the city.
Yeah.
I've loved Christchurch ever since I can remember. And I couldn't imagine really living anywhere else at the moment. I mean, this is where I'm going to die. I mean, I was born here. I'm going to die here.
Right.
And I've just seen it go through so many things over the years.
Yeah.
And you feel this affinity with it, don't you?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more good things to come here in this city.
I think so.
So, I love it here.
Yeah, me too, man. I've never gone. I love it.
Yeah. Red and
Hamilton's
black.
dead to me. So you started, like you said, playing for the Shirley Rugby League Club. What was it about the game that kept Frank Endacott coming back every week? What was it?
Oh, I think the game, I love the ball in the hands. I love running with the football.
Yeah.
And I love the company. I love the comradeship.
Yes.
That was mostly the big thing. Nothing like playing sport with your mates, and you get real tight. You become real tight, as you know. And and those friends normally last for a lifetime. And I just loved the competition of it, because every game was a tough one in those days, and it brings the best out of you, or the worst.
I bet it does. So did you come up through all the grades with Shirley?
I started at Shirley the day it opened in McFarlane Park in 1956.
Right.
And I was a 7-year-old. So I played from 7. I played right through until when was it? Till I was 15. I made the schoolboy Kiwis from Shirley at 15.
Yes.
And then come 16 to 17, there were no grades there for us at the time.
Okay.
So I was in a group of mates said, look, we play for Sydenham Rugby. How would you like to come over there? And I said, I'll come over and have a go.
Yeah.
And I went, because I played first 15 at Shirley Boys High School.
Right.
And I actually quite enjoyed it. So went over to Sydenham and really enjoyed my time at Sydenham.
Okay.
Yeah, some good mates there, and playing against All Blacks when I was 17, it was something special.
Yeah.
17, 18, and it was good times, and still see a few of those blokes today.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So when you saw the light and came back to rugby league, you actually ended up playing Prevs for Addington. So what was the competition like back in the 60s? Because I can only imagine it was tough and full of big hombres that just, like, every tackle was a spare tackle. There was plenty of thuggery. Yeah. Tell us about it.
Yeah, honestly, you hit the nail on the head. I went back and played for Addington when I was 19. And I think I was the youngest. Yeah, I was the youngest in the team at that stage. And they had Kiwis like Jimmy White and Jimmy Fisher and these guys in it, and half the Canterbury forward pack. And I played 5'8" in centre.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And enjoyed it. But I've got to be honest with you, the game was brutal. I mean, have a look at the nose.
Next level brutal.
Next level brutal. It was, thank goodness you don't see it today, but
I kind of would love it,
mate, if you're in the front row, and you never had a punch up in the first scrum, you looked at each other. There was something wrong. There's something not going on here, And normally when it started, 26 players were in it.
Wow.
And sometimes they come on from the bench. It was, and I've even seen them come over the fence. But it was, they were brutal days. Every tackle was around here.
Wow.
But there were no cameras in those days, and you could get away with whatever you wanted.
Far out.
Yeah. So any personal vendettas, it was a good place to be.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, you mentioned you were selected for the schoolboy Kiwis in 1963, and you played Australia here in Christchurch. So what was that experience like, and playing for the Kiwis, junior Kiwis?
Oh, at 15-year-old and putting on a Kiwi jersey was just something I'll never forget.
Absolutely.
It was special. I still remember sitting in the old stand at the showgrounds, the real old one, and looking around the room and all these Kiwi jerseys sitting there, and we come from all around the country, and I was Canterbury captain in that tournament, and the Auckland captain, Brucey Mitchell, he was sitting next to me, and you just get Graham Cooksley, he was the halfback, and I was the 5'8", the Canterbury combination. Yep. He went on to full Kiwi honours, and we played that game. We beat them in the mud 6-3. It was 3 for a try in those days.
Fair, yeah.
We scored 2 tries, they scored 1. And it was Philip Orchard scored the winning try.
Yeah.
Went through the back line, and we all had a part in that. And he scored right in the corner to win the game, 6-3. It was fantastic.
Unbelievable. And so in 1972 and 1974, you took on the role of player coach for Addington. So how did that come about, and how tough was it both juggling coaching and playing at Prem's level in Christchurch?
Well, yeah, it was new to me because in 72, and the same thing happened in 74, where the coach got sacked. But in 72, our coach left us. And it was a Thursday night, and we were playing the top team, Eastern Suburbs. And they said, look, our coach is gone, he's not coming back, so we need to do something. So the manager said, he said, right, well, let's have a vote. Someone's got to take, and don't know how, but I got the vote for the coach. So took them through, and they actually quite enjoyed it.
Nice.
It was quite enjoyed it. There was a lot more senior players than me in the team, but we beat the top side that day, and and in that game, and I went through for the rest of the year and coached them. And then in 74, the same thing happened with it. Well, the coach got sacked, and they said, Frank, can you do it? So I took it over again. So in those 2 years, it was as a player coach, 72 and 74.
Okay. Did you enjoy it?
Loved it.
Loved it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just something that came natural.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Is that sort of what, I guess, further on led you into full-time coaching?
Yeah, well, that started in 82, of course.
Yeah.
And with Addington. And that was the start of full-time coaching, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, put it this way, Dave. I started off playing at 5'8".
Yep.
Then I went to centre. Then they put me in at lock forward, second row, and once I reached the front row, I thought it's time to start coaching.
Especially in those days. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So you actually transferred to Hornby as well while you were playing. Was it a big deal transferring clubs in the Prems comp back in those days?
Yeah, it was, because I'd spent I loved Addington as a club. I loved it.
Yeah.
And winning that grand final in 82 against the star-studded Hornby team by 1 point, 12-11, I think it was. That brought this rivalry between us. And then when I went there, I think it was 85, 86, 87,
Okay.
We were living out Hornby way.
Okay.
So when they asked me would I be interested, I said, yeah, I'll give it a go. And I was coaching young Shane's team from 10-year-olds at the same time in Hornby. And took them right through to 17s at the same time as I was coaching first grade.
Well, they were lucky. Frank Endacott was the coach.
So, and that was a really good team. They lost one game in 4 years.
Far out.
So I had a lot of time at Hornby in the end, and really enjoyed it. The players were very good players. In '87 we had the Kiwi front row that beat Australia.
Crazy.
So
that would be
Ross Taylor, Wayne Wallace, and Adrian Shelford.
Amazing.
So
good.
Yeah, not a bad front row.
Not bad at all. So you obviously enjoyed your time at Hornby, but I also read online that you actually missed out on making the Canterbury rep side because you had these annoying, dodgy hamstrings that kept, holding you back.
I had the worst hamstrings in the world.
Really?
And we didn't. I actually never had a problem until I was playing for Sydenham against Linwood.
Okay.
At Linwood Park it was. It was in a reserve grade match before I played a couple before I went up to first grade, senior. And I pulled me up, but in those days we didn't know how to deal with it. We didn't know about ice treatment.
Okay.
We got the masseurs with the thumbs in. And the All Black masseur was the guy that was doing me. Can't remember his name. I know it as soon as I heard it. And he just, he used to bring you to tears. But it's actually, I've still got the scar tissue today. And
really?
Yeah, every time you wanted to go full pace, you could feel it pulling. And I brought up the wife and me, Joan and me, brought up a second family in those days when her parents died young.
Okay.
And I was juggling the family life and working long hours and trying to play rugby league at the same time. So I really never put the effort in that I wanted to see if I could ever make top level.
Yeah.
I felt as though I could.
Yeah.
But with the hamstring and the family life sort of held me back big time.
That's a lot of balls to juggle.
Yeah, it was too many when I was a young man.
Something
I was only young, Yeah.
Yeah, far out. That's crazy. So what was that? So I'm guessing that was the decision that made you decide, right, time to hang up the boots and let's put the coaching hat on and go full throttle into that.
Yeah. Yeah, actually Joan encouraged me to do it.
Okay.
She said, you need to do something, you'll be a frustrated man if you're not. So And there were times where I wanted to give it away.
Okay.
With problems with administration and that, and she said, "You're a big wimp." She said, "Go back and fight them," And she just really set the seal for my whole career, to be honest. Yeah.
Amazing. I hear she's a pretty strong lady after having Gary, your son, on the show.
Oh.
And it's like with the way you raised Gary up to, never say die attitude. And
No, if you cross her, it's a fate worse than death.
Never cross her. All right.
Yeah.
Enough said. Oh, mate, that's awesome. So it's 1982, massive year. You took on Addington, as we said, full-time coach. And you took them over to the grand final. How special was it,
wow,
knocking over the big guns?
Well, there's a real story to this because, we're the oldest club. Addington were the oldest club in Canterbury.
Okay.
And Hornby, I think, was the third oldest club. I think Sydenham was the next, and then Hornby. So it was to play this team, star-studded team of Kiwis and really good players.
Yeah.
I had a team of young fellas. I brought 2 guys in for that season. We lost something like 6 or 7 players, experienced players from the season before. And I brought a forward in from Sydenham called Lawrence Hale,
okay,
who could have been a Kiwi.
Right.
And Mike Smith,
okay,
who was a great player. So I just handpicked 2 players, and the rest were all local juniors.
Really?
And I'll tell you, those 2 players were sensational.
Yeah.
And they brought our team together as a team, and we went out there. But what happened, I think the catalyst to winning this, was that I got suspended that year.
Okay.
Me and the Linwood coach, Russell Ward, he was a good coach and a good bloke. He got 2 weeks and I got 3 weeks. and I had no problem with the suspension, but it was leading into the playoffs, Dave, and I was barred from training and everything.
Really?
Yeah, so I had to work around this. So what I did, I had a chat to our captain, John Tapiata, and a couple of the senior players, and we decided that I would go to every training session, knowing that the board were in their cars on the roadside at Gerald Street looking to see if I was training.
Really?
Yeah, true.
Oh.
And I sorted out this tree, and it had the big floodlight in front of it blowing out, so they couldn't see this tree behind. And I got there before anyone and climbed up the tree. And I had a big coat on and a big drover's hat, big cowboy hat on. And I'm sitting up in the cold and the dark up the street of the players all turned up. And we had it sussed that they would do their stretches. They'd go around the park and do their stretches underneath this tree, and I'd be yelling out the instructions to what they do. And Tapiata, Johnny, he'd take them out in the park and do their, and then every so often he'd bring them back under the tree and make out we're doing a few stretches, and I'd say, and this is cold. And I could see the board members in their cars. They had a different one every night. And this happened for 3 weeks.
That's amazing.
But that galvanised us as a team, and we went out and won that grand final against all the odds in the world.
That is the best story. I reckon that's up there with the top few on the podcast. That's amazing. I love it. Yeah. So you said you handpicked these 2 guys. What was your coaching style? Like, what were you looking for in players? How did you conduct yourself? What was your style back in those days?
I was, I've always been a coach that brings a team. I like to bring a team together like a family.
Okay.
And they had to fit in they had to buy into what we were doing, I had a good manager, Stan Barton. He'd get out there and he'd make sure that we got the players and they'd come together and no one stepped out of line. It was really, really good. Discipline was the key.
Okay.
Even though we played tough, it was discipline that, all in.
Yep.
And just the talent of some of these young players come through, and
Okay.
with these 2 guys we had in the team, it just brought the team together and they just got better and better.
Yeah.
And I started learning a little bit about the game myself, about coaching and game plans. I went to Australia.
Yeah.
And went to Armidale.
Okay.
Up in the university up there and did a training course with Wayne Bennett, John Money, and all them were
Really?
there. And I got the level 3. It was the top one, Australian coaching certificate. So I started getting more confidence myself.
Okay.
And then that just came naturally after that.
Brilliant. And that led on to 3 straight grand finals in a row. You went to you went back over the fence to Hornby. You coached Hornby, and you took the Panthers to 3 straight grand finals. Was it 85, 86, 87?
Yep.
You had the bookend losses, thanks to Phil Bancroft.
1 point drop goals. One was a classic. Oh, I'll never forget it. Yeah.
But you got the win in the middle. So
the win in the middle was a good one too. It was about a 22-point win or something from memory, 20-something points, and that was the game that Graham Larson, the second rower, he lost his dad in a car accident in a couple of weeks before that.
Oh,
final.
really?
Yeah, and he went out and played for him. And he was a man possessed. He was a good second row, Graham Larson.
Okay.
And he scored 3 tries in it. And and we blew them off the park.
Awesome.
But they got the other 2 by a point. And they were great games. They deserved them. They were a good side in themselves.
Yeah, they've gone down in history, those games, those ones. Yeah.
Well, packed showgrounds, packed out. You know? Yeah.
That's what you want, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, since I moved here and I've gotten, immersed myself in the rugby league community, I very quickly learned Horswell versus Hornby is a big deal. It's a big deal.
Well, it's a local derby. It still is. It has been ever since I remember.
Yeah, it's bloody fantastic. I love it. So, did you feel like at that point, obviously 3 grand finals in a row, did you feel like you were definitely on the right track towards maybe progressing in coaching and going maybe a bit further?
Oh, yeah, I didn't really think too far ahead. I remember having this thing that I would have loved to have coached Canterbury at top level.
Okay.
And I knew it was coming up because Ray Heffernan was giving it away in, I think it was 88.
Okay.
So the job was up for grabs in 89, and I'm just coming out of all my club coaching and with some success, and they mentioned it to me, and I said, well, I'll definitely put in, because Ray had done a very good job, with the team. I thought he had done a very good job, and but I was a national selector for the junior Kiwis, and I remember going up to Massey University and watching the guys like Jared McCracken and Quinton Pongier and Canterbury Auckland final was just unbelievable. I'll never forget that game. Canterbury won it, and they, honestly, I thought, how tough is this? Jason Lowry was another one. Anyway, I thought, I went home and I remember saying to the wife, I've never been so excited in my life seeing what's coming through for Canterbury. I said, they might be 2 or 3 years away, but anyway, I said, I'm going to put in. So I put in and got the job in 89.
Massive.
And I picked all these young fellas.
Yeah.
And because they were only babies at that stage, no one knew their names or anything. And by gee, I thought I said to the board, the Canterbury board, this is going to be a 5-year thing.
Right.
Well, we did it in 2.
Amazing.
The first year we had some ups and downs, but I was learning about the players. And the first game I took them to the West Coast at Wingham Park, and we got beaten at West Coast. And later, I saw the signs. Later in that season, the same team came over here, and we beat them by 60.
Wow!
So I knew it was there.
Yeah.
And so just a bit of patience, and they beat Auckland in 1990.
Yeah.
Great Britain. It was just unheard of. It was, and I'm thinking, this team's special.
So these are the players. Like, what are the sort of some of the names that we might recognise from this side?
If you start off from the front row, you're talking Brent Stewart.
Yes.
Legend. Terry Hermanson, Ron Samanu. I mean, these guys just led from the front. And they're as tough as any front rowers in the world.
I would not want to tackle any of them.
And then you got great second rowers. The great Logan Edwards on the back of the scrum. Brendan Tudor, when I could get him across from England.
I love Brendan too.
And then you got your halves. You got Aaron Whittaker and Mark Nixon, Phil Bergman, the 3 halves there, and Justin Wallace. He come on as a super sub. And then you had guys, Brett Roger, so dependable.
Blair Harding.
Blair Harding before.
Rest in peace, brother.
Yeah. He scored 2 tries, should have been 3, in the big final against Auckland. Marty Krieger at fullback and Buzz Doreen on one wing, Fetu Tara on the other.
Amazing.
Gee, have I missed anyone out? I mean, it just goes on.
Mike Cully.
Michael Cully at hooker, should have been in the Kiwi squad.
Yep.
Paul Johnson. Gee, if I forgot anyone, I just treated everyone was as good as the other.
Yeah,
they were a great team. They were great. It was like honestly, it was like a family.
Yeah, crazy stuff, eh? Crazy.
When we won and we celebrated, gee, did we celebrate?
Absolutely.
I actually made a big mistake after the Great Britain game of Brent. We're at the bar. We celebrated for 2 days, and he was at the bar and he called me over to have a pint with him. I thought, well, this could be a... So anyway, I had a pint with him, and if you ever had a beer with Brett, you know he can drink pretty good. Well, after about the fourth pint, I'd already had a few, and after about the fourth, I started sagging at the knees. He blew me away. He's just too good for me.
On your Brett. So let's talk about that Great Britain victory. Like, how did you prepare the boys and get them up for an international touring Lions side? I mean, that's massive.
Yeah, it is. But, these are guys we'd watched on TV and heard the big names from over the UK. But if you can't get up for a challenge like that, you're never going to get up.
Well, that's fair.
That was just normal. I didn't have to get them up for the game much.
Okay.
I brought a forward in from up north as a guest player, Ricky Cowan.
Okay.
Well, gee, he stood up to the Poms big time.
Yeah.
And he was good for us. But the team, played in the wet, and I remember we had a couple of coaches. Gary Leck was one, but remember him? Those coaches have got web feet in the wet, and they really excelled. It was a great game, great result.
Oh, it's amazing.
Great result.
Yeah, fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Obviously, Canterbury, Auckland. It's no secret you guys are rivals in pretty much every sporting code known to man in New Zealand, but. Auckland had the wood on Canterbury for quite a number of years,
32.
Before you came along. And then, like you said, you got a win in 91, a draw in 1992, and obviously
2 wins in 93.
The big final, 1993.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that game. It's one of my favourite games now that I've learned so much about it. What was the plan going into that? You obviously got Brendan Tudor at the last minute.
Oh, yeah. Thanks to Featherstone Rovers, they were very good to deal with over that. And Brendan wanted to come back for it.
Yeah.
And I needed him back, to be honest.
He was amazing in that game.
Well, him and Tara Nikau were just two standouts in that game.
Absolutely.
They were at each other.
Opposite locks, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, 2 number 13s. And they were tremendous.
Yeah.
Like 2 bulls locking together all the time. But Brendan was the toughest bloke in World Rugby League for his pound for pound.
Yeah.
Pound for pound.
I know he's quite a slight build. It's not much to him, but he was aggressive.
Oh, yeah, he's got a heart of a lion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
never forget, I brought him into first grade rugby league at Hornby at 19. Yeah. And, mate, he was just a natural fighter. He was that aggressive. Every time he got tackled, he wanted to hit something. So I had to have a chat to him. I'll never forget what I said. Brendan, I said, if I want to have a boxer, I'd pick you. But we're looking for rugby league players, and that means discipline. So you got to just curb it. He just got better and better, but he never lost it. You didn't want him losing all the aggression.
No, you need it.
But he just had to curb it because it's better playing with 13 men than 12.
Absolutely. So it's so funny you should say that because I've had both Bradley Clyde and Kieran Walters on my podcast.
Yeah.
And there's one name they brought up from the 1989 Kiwis Aussie Australia match at Kiwi 2.
Yeah.
And Brendan Tudor, they're both like, well, he made us know he was on the field. Let's put it that way.
Well, I did the TV comments on that game, on that test, and I can remember saying that. I think that might have been the test that we named in the Babyface Assassin. That's the one. So he gave Wally Lewis one too, I think, and he didn't care who it was. He was great. He's the sort of player that players love to play with, not against.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So getting back to that match, Logan Edwards. He came out of the blocks absolutely on fire. Beautiful dummy through the line, puts Marty Creeker away for the first try. Did you just know in that moment they were on?
I knew the day before.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a story of that. But they were all planned moves. The thing about this team, we went over and over our plays to the point that they could have gone through it blindfolded.
Okay.
It was that good. But we played on the Sunday. The Saturday morning, I said, right, we're having our final team run on Saturday morning at the showgrounds. And went out there, and honestly, after about 8 to 10 minutes, I had to call them in and stop the session.
Okay.
I said, no, fellas, you're too keen. Leave this till tomorrow.
Okay.
They were like, how can I describe this? They were like a racehorse that was ready to win the cup by 10 lengths.
Okay.
Yeah, I could tell. Anyway, everyone in the town and the media and everything were talking a 50 to 60 point hiding for us because they brought all the English players back.
Yeah, they did.
And so they should have.
Yeah, Tero Party, Craig Guinness, Tawa Nico.
I would have done the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but if I was them. But we had this team here that was just, and we spoke in the dressing room after that session, and I just said, go home, just relax, I'll see you here tomorrow.
Yep.
Because I could feel it, and I went home, and I'll never forget, we were living up Rapaki Road, and I'm walking up the path up the hill, and here's Joan standing at the top. And she said, how'd they go? And I said, Joan, we're going to win tomorrow and win it good.
Yeah.
And she started laughing. And I said, what are you laughing at? She said, do you really believe that? And I said, yeah, I do. Awesome. And now it's history. We beat them by 40, wasn't it? Or 40
36
12.
12, I believe.
Yeah, the first game that year was 40.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
40 to 12, I think. So we give them a bloody good hiding, and not because they were bad, we were good.
You were amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of the tries, like I think my favourite try in the game, there were so many good long range tries, but it was when Brendan Tudor, he bumps off a guy, runs through a hole, runs over someone else, and then puts Logan Edwards over for a stunning try. Yeah. Probably my favourite one in the game. Yeah. Buzz's try was good too.
Buzz's, well, did you notice who was running after him, trying to catch him? Kiwi captain. Richie Barnett.
Oh, far out.
And he's no slug. He's no slug. And they started off with a 2 metre gap, and by the end of it, it was still 2 metres in it. Yeah, Buzz wasn't a slug either. No, he could run.
Bloody fantastic player. What a game. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. It's so cool because I managed to get footage of it finally.
Yeah, it's great footage.
And it's gone pretty viral on Facebook. It's great.
In all the decades of coach, that's in the two of my top performances with the team. It's two most enjoyable wins was that one and the test in '98.
Yeah. Thanks to Lyle Barnes. Shout out to you, Lyle, for getting me that footage. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Thanks, Lyle.
Absolutely. So moving on, in 1992, you took on the Junior Kiwis and you beat the Junior Kangaroos as, a very successful tour on Great Britain. So was this a step up for you after your provincial coaching days?
Yeah, it was actually. I was fortunate, mostly the only coach to ever coach every national team.
Okay.
From residents to Junior Kiwis to the Kiwi Colts who beat France. Mostly Kiwi boys like Aaron Whittaker and Walter Wilson and Mark Nixon and these guys. Yeah. Then the Kiwis, of course, and the residents. Yeah, I said the residents. So every Kiwi team. The Junior Kiwis, that was a huge appointment for me. Huge. It was just such a buzz, Yeah. And I went in there full of confidence.
Oh, good.
With the players, and because they were made up of Aucklanders. Some big name Aucklanders, and I just knew, Ruben Wiki and the centres were Ruben Wiki and Tana Umanga.
Really?
Yeah. So you had an All Black captain and the Kiwi captain.
Unbelievable.
Together. We had a good side. That was a very good side. We hadn't beaten. I think it was the first time in history we beat them. But we played the first test in Rotorua, and they beat us 25-23. I think 2 points. But we outscored them.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't kick the goal.
So
I knew we're going to Carlisle Park for the second test. We had them absolutely fizzing for that.
Yeah.
And they went out there and they just demolished the Australian team. I remember Menzies.
Steve Menzies, one of the great players.
He played for Australia on the wing.
Really?
Yeah, because they had some pretty big forwards and that. And we just demolished them that night. It was so exciting. I'll never forget the New Zealand board and that coming into the dressing room, and they were just over the moon. Yeah. And I think we got some good young players here for the future, boys.
Yeah.
And we did.
Well, looking back now, I mean, Steve Menzies, he was still one of the top few try scorers in history for the NRL.
You're top, I think.
So, you're one of them. And you're beating these guys, who became superstars.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's good times. Yeah. So this all eventually led to your appointment as the Kiwi coach, 1994, where you took the boys on the tour of Papua New Guinea. Mate, that had to be an amazing experience. But you also went to Cairns on your way, played the Cairns Connection.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Well, I remember we went there to really climatise because it's very similar humidity and heat to Papua New Guinea.
Right.
And we had about a week there. And, Yeah, we beat them, and but we struggled in the heat a bit, but it certainly proved worthy of for us going to Papua New Guinea. It got us acclimatised. So when we hit Papua New Guinea, we wondered what the hell hit us, because the players are like gods to these guys over there.
That's crazy. Eh?
And all they want to do is touch you. And when you get about 5,000 people coming up touching you all the time, and it was a place that a lot of people didn't want to tour, but we made the tour into a great experience.
Yeah,
it was one of the tours that I enjoyed most.
Okay.
We only had a supporter club of 2 people, the Mad Butcher and his mate Sal Bennett, a publican in Auckland.
Okay.
And that was funny in itself. The
Mad Butcher's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. We were going, I'll give you an example, one of many. We're on the bus, and it was thousands of faces in front of you. The bus was struggling 1 mile an hour to get through the crowd to get into the gate,
Oh, right.
And the Mad Butcher thought, I'll fix this. And he grabbed a lion red tag, bag tag, off one of the bags, a lion red, the sponsors bag. And it had bright red and a bit of yellow on it. And he said to the bus driver, open the door. And he stood out the door and he showed this bloody tag, and they didn't know what it was. I'm the head of security. Now get out the way. Well, they just went woo, like this. Yeah, saw this lion red bag tag, and they thought it was head of security. And he opened up the crowd for us so we could get into the gate.
Good.
Yeah.
Start calling him Moses after that.
Oh yeah, open up the Red Sea. Yeah.
Oh mate, I put up the video of the Papua New Guinea tour online, and it was like the whole tour was documented, which is amazing. I'm so glad you guys did that.
Greg Clark did that
because. For me, I didn't get to watch that growing up, so seeing that is just unbelievable what you guys got up to. Fantastic.
We got up to
I bet you did.
But, it was so... I'll tell you what I really enjoyed was going around to the schools.
Yeah.
And the looks on those kids' faces, they were just absolutely in awe of the players. And when they did a haka for them, they were just... they just loved it, and apparently they talked about it for months after that.
Crazy.
And we did a lot of good work in Papua New Guinea, because the tour before us was when Graham took them over, Graham Lowe, and they didn't play that game at Ley because of the rocks on the park.
Yes,
which you can understand.
Absolutely.
And they were still dirty on this when we went over, but when we played at Ley and that was another game. Penalty count was 24-2 or something, and we still won by 40. My God! I said to the referee after the game, mate, I said, that penalty count was a bit lopsided. He said, Frank, you have to live here.
Fair play.
Oh, it's a different world.
So, how incredible was it, getting a clean sweep for the whole tour? Because people might think, it's only Papua New Guinea, but you're on their turf. The grounds aren't amazing. The facilities aren't high quality of what you're used to. The players are tough as nails. And obviously you've got your refs are being a little cautious for their own longevity. So just how impressive was it to get a clean sweep?
More than you imagine, because at that time Papua New Guinea actually had a very good team.
Right.
And were they tough? and spare tackles, everything went. That was part of their game, and you had to be tough to get through it. And remembering that the Kiwi tour before that, they got beat by Papua New Guinea. So you got to take. We had all that in the back of our mind that we didn't want to get beat over there, and I gave them a goal of 5 out of 5.
Yep. And
including the 2 tests. So by coming out with 5 out of 5, and also remembering that every international team have been beat over there except Australia, and they've drawn with them.
Wow.
So on the most recent tour of Great Britain went there, they got beat in the series by Papua New Guinea, so they're not mugs, and they're bloody hard to beat over there.
Yeah.
So coming out with 5 out of 5 was the start of a pretty good year.
Not bad at all. Not bad. Do you remember going to see the Mudmen and you got pulled over by the rascals or the gangs? They come on board the bus? Old Aaron Whitaker told me a story.
Well, he's right. He's absolutely. If you want to ask the Mad Butcher about this story, because he's on our bus, we had 2 minivans, and we were the front one. And what had happened, you had to pay, you're right in the middle of the jungle. I mean, there's no houses, you're just looking out at ferns and jungle, thick jungle. And Ray Hafton, our manager, said, look, I've just got to pay this guy the money and all the rest. Well, anyway, we go into the jungle, and next minute this guy comes out of the jungle, and he's got this biggest machete you've ever seen, and he's painted up, and he wasn't joking. Anyway, I turn around, and Hydraulic seen he had turned white, and I'm thinking, we're in trouble here. The butcher's, he's petrified, thought he was going to shoot himself, and I'm the same. Anyway, all of a sudden, out of the jungle, both sides come all these mud men with their machete. They all have machetes.
Wow.
And I'm not joking, they were serious. There was no joke about it or game. What had happened, we found out afterwards, that Ray hadn't paid the guy that sorted it out. You've got to pay so much money.
Right.
And all of a sudden a car screamed up behind us, and this guy comes running out like this to the guy with the machete, Papua New Guinean, and he gave him the money, and all of a sudden it changed to a smile, and they waved us through, and we went in, and they got a few things mixed up, the mud men. We had a great time there. All they wanted to do was get autographs. And I had some people some of them come up to me, and they thought I was Marty Bella.
Oh, really?
I said, he's Australian. Because,
not even close.
I was pretty big those days, bloody baldy. Anyway, I was that shit scared, and then I must have signed 20 autographs, Marty Bella.
just don't eat me.
Just don't eat me. I can see the cooking pot.
Oh, that's cold.
But it was a hell of an experience, to be honest, because it went from fear to,
just to
relief.
Yeah.
Mate,
I can't believe the stories I've heard from rugby league. That you get these type of stories. It's unreal. Look,
honestly, I could speak for 3-4 hours just on Papua New Guinea.
Was there any particular players that stood out during that tour?
I remember Brendan Tudor showed out on that tour because I remember him getting spear tackled, I think it was in the first test. And I thought, geez, that could break his neck. Well, he came back and fired him up, and wow, he was whacking everything. He just didn't care. And I'll tell you the other player they all played well, every player.
Of course.
But the other player that stood out to me was Gene Namu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Gene Namu come out. He had a magic tour.
Well, is it the sort of peak of his powers during those mid-90s, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. And having Gary inside him was... with that steadying influence, they had a good combination together.
Right.
And then we had Aaron Whittaker come in. He come in there too. So every player put their hand up. Johnny Lomax, he had a big one too. And Terry, they all did their job. Every player, I couldn't. It's hard to. But I remember those two, Brendan Tudor, and Gene Namu really. I remember them really standing out.
Beautiful. Oh, mate, that's so cool. So moving on to 1995 World Cup. It starts with the most shakiest of shaky victories, 25-24 over Tonga. Yeah. They really should have beaten you, in my opinion, watching the game. I was like, I think the clock went past 80 minutes, which is what saved your bacon, because you got that last try and a goal. Unbelievable.
Yeah, now I can recall this game as though it was an hour ago.
Okay.
Because I thought this is going to be a very brief Kiwi coaching career. Because I had Graham Carden, the president of New Zealand, really sitting right behind me. I could just about feel him breathing on the back of my neck. Beside me was Gary Kemble, my assistant.
Oh, yes.
And there's a story in that game that I've got to tell you.
Let's hear it.
Because, all right, with 7 minutes to go, we needed 13 points to win.
Yep.
Now, the way the game was going, we had no show.
Okay.
No show in the world. It was impossible. We were playing at Warrington's old ground called Wilderswall.
Okay.
Dwayne Mann was the Tongan captain.
He was.
And he played at Warrington. It was his home ground, and Dwayne was a favourite there.
Yes.
And it's another story, but he should have been with us and not them.
Okay.
But the crowd got behind them, as they do over there. Anyway, 7 minutes to go, 13 points needed. I'm thinking, what's going on here? Someone was down injured.
Okay.
And I sent Wiz. Gary Freeman was on the sideline. I said, Gary, whip out to Matthew Ridge and tell them we had a set play that we did from around that halfway line, just inside their half.
Okay.
And we were sort of on the 20-metre line, our 20 metres, so we were struggling.
Yeah.
But we got a rear penalty. So when the guy got up injured, I thought, well, we'll put this on, and I put a couple of new subs on too at the same time.
Okay.
And I'll never forget it. I could see Wiz talking to Matthew Ridge, and thinking, well, yeah, 13 points to score, 7 minutes to go. We're going here.
It's not looking too good.
It's not looking good at all. Not that you ever give up, but believe me, we were gone. And we were playing rubbish.
Yeah, you didn't play well.
No, put the hand up there. Anyway, Wiz comes running back with a smile on his face, and I'm thinking, what the? And he gets on the speaker, and he's talking to Gary Kimball, who's next to me. And he said, Gary, he said, Wiz here, he said, tell Frank, Matthew said, don't worry, it's all under control. Well, I'll tell you what, honestly, I looked at Gary Kimball, he looked at me and we started laughing. And I think, if the cameras got on us then at that moment, they would have thought, what the hell's going on
Wouldn't have been
here?
a good look, was it?
Wouldn't have been a good look, and I thought about that ever since. Anyway, cut the long story short, he puts the ball out, and we work this set play. And we score in the right corner. I think it was Richie Blackmore.
Okay.
Right in the corner. Ridge goes up, puts the ball on the ground, didn't even eye it up, just walked straight back, banged it from the sideline down the middle.
Yep.
We go back, 2 or 3 minutes later, we go through the same set the other side, and one of the replacements, I think it might have been Henry Poole.
Okay.
Someone scored the try on the left-hand flank. Reggie does the same again.
Was Hytro? He got a try in the last.
Yeah, I think it might have been him actually.
Might have been Hytro.
Yeah. Could have been actually. And Reggie puts the ball down, straight between the posts. We're even.
Unbelievable.
And we've got 2 minutes to go.
Yep.
So I sent the message down, not that I had to tell him, but I sent it down just to make sure. I said, Reggie, drop goal, work it up, drop goal. Anyway, we work it up, and I can see the drop goal. They had 3 players coming at Ridgie, 5 metres offside.
Yep.
They were that, and the referee would never have given the penalty. He wouldn't have been brave enough.
No.
So I thought, whoa, no! And all of a sudden he went off the right foot and kicked it over the left foot as though nothing had happened.
Crazy.
And we win the game by 1.
Unbelievable.
The press conference was pretty tasty because the other coach was my old mate from Auckland, rest in peace, Mike McLennan.
Yes.
Bluey's dad.
Yes.
Good coach, good bloke, and he obviously thought that they should have won.
I've heard nothing but good things about him.
Yeah, good man. And anyway, he said something in the press conference, and I got a bit touchy about it. And I said, listen here, Mike, you've got to understand that this is like a horse race. It doesn't. If your horse wins by a nose or wins by 10 lengths, it still pays the same dividend.
That's right. You know? Exactly.
Well, he got upset about that, but at the end of the day, we won, and it set us in good heart for the games coming up for the Australian semi.
Yes, and that's what you did. You went on to the semi-final against Australia. It went all the way to extra time.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It must have been heartbreaking to not get the result, but were you proud of your boys for just giving it to them for 80 minutes? And
unbelievable. In England, if you go to England now, that's one of the epic games of all time that they talk about.
Really?
Yeah, Kevin Hero scored in the right-hand corner, and we only had to convert to win the game, and it was Ridgie's worst kick of all time. The worst kick of all time. And normally he'd do that blindfolded.
Yeah. But
then we had another opportunity with about a minute to go before going into extra time with a drop goal, and he kicked it with the left foot.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking, coat of paint in it. So we had 2 chances to win that and knock Australia out, and we would have won the World Cup.
Would have been incredible.
But because we had England covered, we had Great Britain covered. We thought we did.
Okay.
And so that was really, really hard to swallow.
I bet.
Knowing that we should have won it, but what happened in extra time? They had 2 fresh players, Matty Johns and I think Terry Hill or someone.
Pretty handy.
Two handy players went on. Only Bobby Fulton admitted afterwards he had made a mistake and forgot all about them in the stand.
Okay.
So,
whoops.
He did. He said it, not me. Anyway, having the 2 fresh players, I made all the difference because we'd put plenty into that big charge at the end. And, But what a spectacle.
Yeah.
You know, what a spectacle. I was so proud of them.
Oh, you should be. Oh,
Yeah.
it's always exciting when New Zealand can match it with Australia because they've always had the wood on us. But
Yeah.
and just totally off topic, what do you think about the Kiwis in recent times? Like, we've kind of been matching it with them now for, say, the last 10 years, you know, on and off beating them, but had a pretty good run over the last few years.
Yeah, we've matched it with them for the last... You have your ups and downs. It's different cycles of players, but... That win of the Kiwis under Madge Maguire, 30-0,
Yeah.
in the last test, that was as good as it gets. I mean,
Phenomenal.
to keep Australia to 0
Yeah.
is special.
An incredible team. Like,
Look, that's one of the best Kiwi wins of all time. I mean, it was phenomenal.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted your opinion on that. That's just fantastic stuff, eh? So, 1996, you destroyed Papua New Guinea with two 60-point efforts and a clean sweep of Great Britain 3-0. That's pretty special. So, what are your memories of the tour of Great Britain or playing Great Britain? They've always been sort of our even counterpart. You know, they've always had good series. You can beat each other on any given day.
Yeah, they had a lot better record than us over the years. I remember these test matches over yesterday, and with the two tests against Papua New Guinea over, you know, they weren't great travellers.
Okay.
They were good at home, but not great travelling. We knew that.
Yeah.
So we put 60 on both.
Yeah.
And then that put us in great order for the three test series against Great Britain. They had a very good team. I think Dennis Betts was their captain.
Right.
They are a team of out-and-out pros.
Yeah.
The first two tests were very, very tight, and we got home in both of them. The player that showed up there was the ex-All Black, Johnny Timu.
Okay.
He went very well. He scored a couple of tries that got us out of the, I think it was the Rotorua test.
Right.
But we come down to Christchurch.
Yeah.
Happened to get a test in my old hometown.
Nice.
At Lancaster
How
Park.
good.
And we beat them by a record score.
Yeah.
And I picked Mark Ellis on the wing.
Really?
For the Kiwis. And it was a big thing for Mark.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate at the same time because you might remember he went down on a sprinkler and it took his kneecap off and 28 stitches to sew it back on. And he got carried off, unfortunately. But we put him to the sword that night and won the clean sweep. You don't do that against Great Britain very often.
Not often, no. And just on Mark Ellis, that was pretty incredible because he did just play the All Blacks World Cup the year before.
Yeah.
So pretty impressive transition to get straight into the Kiwis.
Yeah, very much so. Him and John Timu, they played well for us. Yeah, very good. Mark was a damn good footballer. He was a great footy player, and but he was even a better bloke.
Yeah.
You know,
he's a larrikin. We love him.
Oh, larrikin. You got to love him. You'd love to sit there and have a beer with him, you know, talk about stories. Because we got some good stories with him, too.
I bet you do. I bet they can't be on the podcast.
Some good, some can't.
So let's move on to your time at the Auckland Warriors. You were named as the inaugural coach of the Warriors reserve grade side. Was basically a nursery of Kiwi talent for the next decade. So how did that opportunity come up? How excited were you to be a part of New Zealand's first and still only, you know, ARL side back in those days?
Well, it was an honour. I could never see myself going up coaching an Auckland team. I mean, I was just, every time you thought Auckland saw blue and white, you wanted to attack them. It was just like the Aussie jersey, you know. But it was after the final, actually, the 93 final, and John Money and Ian Robson come up to me and said, look, would you fly up and see us on Monday, I think it was, or the Tuesday, and we want to interview you for the job.
Okay.
And I said, yeah, I'll come up, not knowing I'd get it, because there was a few in for it, mainly Aucklanders. And for a Canterbury to go up and get the job, I was on it.
Yes.
I joined them up there in 94, the year before, to help put the club together with recruitment and everything else. I played a part in that. At the same time, to make it worthwhile me going up there, New Zealand Rugby League and Warriors come to an agreement. They pay half my salary each, and I ended up New Zealand Rugby League coaching director.
Okay.
Working out of the offices in Newmarket. So it was best of both worlds. Because the only tricky thing was that I was sponsored by Lion Red with the Kiwis and DB with the Warriors. But even
boxes of them everywhere at home.
Well, it was. It should have seen the garage. But to their credit, the two companies come together.
Oh, nice.
The CEOs come together. They're good men, and they understood. So
Nice.
they were great.
That's amazing. So, well, what was that experience like putting that side together? Were there certain players you were targeting?
Yep.
Were you involved with the top side as well?
Yep.
Or, okay.
Yeah. John more or less done the. He knew who he wanted for the top side.
Okay.
But he wanted me to, bring players in that I thought were good enough to make the top side. And I've got to tell you, I went straight for my Canterbury boys.
Yeah, of course.
Because I knew I could trust them, and I knew that they could all play first grade.
Yeah.
And they all went up there and did that.
So the likes of your Aaron Whitakers and all of them who come back
Aaron
over.
Whitaker, Fedu Tawa, Logan Edwards,
Yes.
we brought them all up there, and they were great.
Yeah.
They were terrific, and did the job for us. And that was the nucleus. And then brought guys out of Wellington, guys out of Auckland, because I knew them all from junior Kiwi days and that. So I knew the Aucklanders as good as I did the Cantabrians.
Right.
So. And they all got on well, One day I never had a snag. Never had one player that had a snag with,
Okay.
It was they were great times.
Well, clearly you did your magic, as you do, because second year in 1996, you make the reserve grade grand final.
Yeah.
Warriors are in a final, and a very tough, even reserve grade. People say it's only reserve grade, but you got to realise how many established, unbelievable players were in reserve grade.
Tough competition.
And you're in the final. Well, you had an amazing side, basically, of the next, like I said, decade of Kiwi players. Yeah. How special is that?
You got to remember, we played a Cronulla side that had won the 3 previous grand finals.
Exactly.
And they were very good. Mate, we had them in that final.
Yeah.
We were robbed in that final. I don't say that very often. We were robbed.
Yeah,
we were robbed by a touch
robbed,
judge. A touch judge called Martin Weeks.
Okay.
And he was mentioned. I think he got a full chapter in Gus Gould's book. he thought the same
Really?
about him. It was terrible. I think it was Shane.
Yeah.
Shane Endacott put the kick up right at the end. I think Doc Murray scored the try from the kick. And they said that, I think, Tony Tutupu, he comes running on with his flag. The referee went like that to give the try, wins the grand final. And this idiot comes run from the sideline with his flag up saying, he was, I'm sure it was Tony Tutupu, was offside. Well, I went back and looked at that video, and he was 15 metres onside.
And probably had nothing to do with the play.
Nothing to do with play at all. It was just, but he used to do that quite often in games, and he wasn't very well liked.
Yeah.
So he cost us a grand final first in the second year of the club.
Unbelievable.
But to make it was an accolade in itself.
Yeah, it's pretty special, I think. And then they went back to back. 1997, you went to the grand final again in the Super League year. But you had moved on to the main side by that point, I imagine.
97, halfway through 97, they sacked John.
Yeah.
And I took over. Halfway through the year, we were lying in 10th position out of 10.
Yeah.
And we ended up 7.
Exactly, know.
Yeah, so we made a bit of headway.
But you would have been with that reserve grade side for the majority of that year, which would have propelled them on their path to back-to-back grand finals. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was. And of course, the World Club Championship.
Oh, mate, that's amazing.
Yeah, that game was we beat all the English sides by Bradford, St Helens by 60.
Them. Yeah,
60. We were on fire.
Yeah.
Warrington, they were the 3 teams. We played the 3 top sides over there and beat them, and beat them good. Then they come over here and we beat them again. We beat them over there and here. So we were unbeaten. We got into the semi-final in the last 4.
Yeah.
It was huge money.
Yeah.
And we got beat by the Brisbane Broncos, by Wayne Bennett's team. Brisbane Broncos in Brisbane, and we got beat, I think it was 18-12.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
Yeah, it was 6. Close, it was one try. And that I said afterwards how proud I was of my boys, because that was the best game we played all year.
Yeah.
And we lost.
Yeah, well, you basically played the Queensland Origin side,
Oh, mate,
or Australian Test side, because there's so many of the Broncos in there.
They were honestly, our guys were fantastic in that game.
Yep, I remember that whole World Club Challenge. So we're talking the days when I really got into rugby league. I was 12, 13, you know, and I was very much obsessed, you know, with watching it a lot. And I was actually more of a Broncos fan back then because of my Brisbane family, but the Warriors were very new still at that point. But I watched the Warriors every week. Yeah. And, you know, there was your Dennis Betts and all these big names in the Warriors. And, oh, mate, watching them play through that World Club Challenge was exciting because they'd had a poor year until you come along, and then they got on a bit of a roll, and then just seeing them actually, like seeing Stacey Jones open up and carve these teams up in the World Cup Challenge was amazing.
Yeah, no, it was. We were based in England in a country club there outside of Wigan for 3 weeks, and boy, gee, did we have a ball?
I bet.
Oh, didn't we have a ball? You know, we played hard on the field, but we played hard off it too. It was really good.
And also your son was playing for the Warriors at the time, Shane, and in that 96 season, the reserve grade semi-final, I believe he held up a play in the final minute that saved the match.
That was
against the Roosters, potentially?
Yeah, semi-final? It was not just him. It was a combination of him, Shane, and Tony Tumavavi.
Right.
Excuse me. And both of them had been injured for about 4 weeks previous, and they were getting into each game with injections. So how they got through them, I'll never know. Both of them. And I remember those two made that tackle. It was on John Simons.
Ah, yes, John Simons.
It'd be an inch in it. And that was the last tackle of the match that got us into the grand final. Yeah. And I thought, wow, that just says. But our tackling like that throughout the game we wanted to win. Yeah, and in that playoff series was some of the toughest games you'd ever see, and it was in reserve grade. Yeah, they were as tough as first grade.
Wow, and
they made me first graders playing in there, you know, and it was a tough competition. So it made it even better to see that. It was just effort on effort.
Yeah. So take your coach hat off for a minute and put your dad hat on. What's it like as a father seeing your son, you know, come up with the big plays, playing with injections? He's giving us everything, and just how special is it watching your son, you know, do something massive on the football field?
Well, it's hard when you're coach.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're damned. I mean, I always said, and I've never wavered from this, no one should be disadvantaged because of their name.
Yep.
And, you know, if a player's good enough, no matter what club he's from or what his name is, I'll pick him.
Yep.
You know, and he deserves to be in. Shane was one of those players that was as honest as the day comes. He did his job. There was no shit about him. He just did his job. He'd be the first to tell you he wasn't the flashiest player in the game, but by geez, he gave plenty of heart, and he'd make his tackles, and he'd give the good passes, and he could score some tries too. Yeah. So he was worthy of his place in the team. Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
And just touch on Gary for a minute today with all his achievements in rugby league and climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and you know, does it make you like proud of to see him out there smashing guys on the footy park?
Honestly, I don't know how he does it. We were in England at the time at Wigan, and when he did Mount Kilimanjaro, and he rang us up just after he'd done it. And honestly, I said to Jane, he sounds like he's ready to die. Honestly, it was that bad. He was mentally gone, and I don't know whether he told you the story about his nosebleed up there, and
I can't recall. I think he might have actually.
Yeah, if your nose bleeds because you don't wear the mask and the oxygen and that. So if your nose bleeds, you automatically go down. There's no question. And a couple of guys that had climbed Everest went down because of nosebleeds. Okay. They could have done it, but because of their nosebleed, they were gone. Okay. Well, Gary started bleeding. Yeah. And he had a red lining inside his jacket, and apparently he was wiping.
That's right. He definitely did tell me that.
Did he tell you that? Yep. Yeah. So he got up there, and then it was such an effort. He got to the top, and then they had to bring him down on a bloody stretcher. He was gone.
Crazy.
Yeah. It just about literally killed him.
It's phenomenal though. If you know, as a dad, when you see that, there's two trains of thought. People will think, "You're mad. What's wrong with you?" Yeah. Or you could think, "You're incredible. What an achievement."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the biggest achievement I ever seen him do was. It was in '97, and Joan and me went to New York to watch him in the marathon.
Oh yes.
And sitting there with 300 metres to go and watching him come around the corner and through the finishing line, was mostly one of the best achievements, one of the most satisfying things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was, we were told by doctors that he had never walked, he'd been in a wheelchair his whole life. But he's never been in a wheelchair for a minute.
No.
And to see him finish a New York Marathon like that was just unbelievable.
It's incredible.
Then he done another one after that with Shane. Then he done another one after that with Aaron.
That's right.
Whittaker.
That's crazy.
And so they know how tough he is. You know,
So
he's got a heart like a lion.
You know, I run marathons, you know, as a fully normal functioning person, and I am wrecked after 4 hours. Yeah. And he's on his feet for 7+ hours.
7.5 hours.
Crazy. So incredible.
Yeah, and he went through so many pair of shoes, and
it's just unreal. So 1998, like being in charge of the Warriors, you had a really great side, but it didn't quite go to script the season. Picking up 9 wins, 15th place finish. But what goes through the mind of a coach when the season's not going as you planned? And do you feel pressure? Is it quite a difficult situation to be in?
It was that year because there were 20 teams in the competition.
Yes.
We finished 15th. I'm not joking. We could have finished as high as 6th.
Yeah.
We were never thrashed. I remember Gordon Tallis saying one thing after we played him in St George, and we really got into them. They beat us. I think we lost so many games by 2 points.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you about this in a sec with the referees. But
okay.
Gordon Tallis said afterwards, he said, whether you win or lose against the Warriors, he said, you know, one thing, you'll lose next week, you'll be that battered.
Yeah.
And that's what we used to do. We used to play tough.
Yep.
And we could foot it with them. That was the year that we come together, but there was still feeling from the referees from the ARL side. Okay. And they made it quite known to us at times.
Right, because you were Super League aligned, obviously.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that wasn't my choice, that was the club's choice. Yep. You know, I hated the Super League era.
Really?
Yeah, I did. It wasn't the same feeling.
Okay.
We used to go away with players and sit around a table and we used to talk about football over our dinner and that. When the Super League war came in, they used to talk about who's got the biggest car, the biggest boat, and it was all about money.
Yep.
And I was never part of that, and I can say to this day, I never took 1 cent of
really?
Super League money. No,
okay.
I didn't. No. I've always been for the game, always will be.
Absolutely. We all know that. Yeah. Definitely.
So in '98, it was honestly, we were a better side than what we were on the ladder.
Yes.
And I know at least 5 or 6 games that we played best and should have won. But a late penalty here and there to do us was given, and that was it, and end of argument. Right. Can't do anything about it, but we were a better side than where we were, indicated on the ladder.
Yeah, okay. So how did your tenure at the Warriors come to an end? Like, was it you were pushed, or did you walk away, or how did that all happen?
No, good question. No, what happened, I had another year on the contract. Okay. But Tainui...
Oh, yes.
The Tainui tribe bought the club.
They did.
Now, when someone comes in, they normally go with a new broom and sweep. And I was one of the casualties, like some others.
Okay.
I had no problem with that.
Yep.
Tainui had their right, Graham Lowe and a guy called Malcolm Boyle.
Yes.
Rest in peace, he's now passed. But they made the choice of going with Mark Graham.
Yes.
I never had a problem with that.
Yep.
That's just part of the professional world. I would have loved another year. I just felt that we were at the point that we were about ready to make this club tick.
Yeah.
And as it was, with all the changes, they went downhill to in a quick way.
Yeah.
And that club wouldn't be there now if it wasn't for Eric coming through and buying the club. So Eric Watson. So, in hindsight, if they had kept me there with the relationship I had with the players, because the players weren't happy after that, a lot of them. Yeah. And a lot left the club.
They did.
That. Yeah. If they had kept us there, the nucleus there, the experience and myself, they would have been a better club for it. Yeah. But I don't hold any distaste about that, because I know that's the process.
Yeah. But it must be nice though when you look back, and you've got your name in the history of the Warriors. They're a special side. Oh. Every Kiwi at some point has loved the Warriors or been totally dismayed by the Warriors with some of the results. But
well, the second head coach ever and the first Kiwi coach ever. Of course, I'm proud. I'm
Absolutely.
As proud as I could ever be, and it's a great club. It'll always be a great club, and hold something within. Yeah, I follow them every week. I want them to win every week.
Yep, we all want them to win. They've come so close. You know, the second grand final they were in was on my birthday.
Oh.
And I was like, this is the year, 2011. They're going to do it this time. And they didn't do it.
No.
Now, we've got to talk about, you're still the Kiwi coach. 1997 and 98, you got two fantastic victories over Australia. The 97, you beat the Super League Australian side 30-12 at North Harbour. But then in 1998, the two comps are back together. So you've got a full Australian side, you've got a full Kiwi side, and you guys beat them on Anzac Day. Amazing test match. Terry Hermanson crashes over for a try to put the Kiwis ahead. Very special. How amazing was that, man?
Well, as I said earlier, the two games that really I enjoyed most at top level was Canterbury beating Auckland in '93 and New Zealand beating Australia in '98 at North Harbour.
Yeah.
In '97, we beat them good, 30-12. Lockie had a shocker that day.
He did.
We had it planned. We discussed it that he was great under the high ball, but he didn't like the ball on the ground.
Okay.
So if you ever look in that game, all our kicks were along the ground, and he fumbled, and the crowd gave it to Wendell Saylor, and they really got upset, and it was a good Aussie side in itself. And,
Absolutely.
But we had a good win. It gave us confidence for '98. But '98, we were paying on the TAB head to head $5.50, and they were paying, Australia were paying $1.01.
Far out.
And they had the best Australian team I've ever seen. I mean, they couldn't make up their mind whether it was Laurie Daly or Fittler, Brad Fittler at 5'8". Joey Johns was, I think, from memory, was on the bench.
Yeah, I think Darren Lockyer was on the bench. What riches to have Lockyer and Johns on the bench.
Honestly, it was a team. It was a dream team. Yeah, Australian team.
Amazing side.
Yeah, Stevie Renoff and
Robbie O'Davis was fullback.
Robbie O'Davis, he came off injured. Robbie.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. And at halftime, I had one guy on the bench. The other three, we lost Johnny Lomax after 28 seconds with a neck injury. Went to hospital. He had gone. Richie Barnett had a broken finger. Jared McCracken had so many stitches, but they all went back on. They were tough. They showed me how tough they were that night.
Right.
I'll never ever forget it.
Yeah.
Pongia, Quinton. You should have heard him in half time. I'll tell you what, if he wasn't the toughest man in the world, I'd go he. And I looked around the dressing room, and there was that much blood. I thought we were in the slaughterhouse.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, oh, we're down here, but I just felt there was something there, the way they were talking.
Okay.
And anyway, we got them up for the second half, and everyone had their veins coming out their neck when they walked out in the tunnel, and someone heard, Matthew Ridgett said, guys, we got these blokes, he said, I walked off in the tunnel with Laurie Davey, and he said, every time I bloody look up, there's black jerseys in my face. Yeah. Because we put a lot of pressure on them. And he said, we've got them. Yep. And I'll tell you what, everyone felt as though we could come back. Yeah. And we come back. Terry Hermanson's try was a classic.
So good.
No one was going to stop him near the line. He's a hard bugger.
Absolutely.
It was an inside ball, I think.
It was from Robbie or Henry Paul.
That's right.
Put him back through.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And then Kevin Iro came on and I think scored 2.
He scored 2.
Yeah. And the crowd that night, I'll never forget looking at these happy faces. I thought, our country needs this.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a huge victory.
I
celebrated for 3 days.
Oh, you should have. Yeah. It was one of the great wins. It still is. Yeah. It's just so special because that Australian side, there's some great Australian sides, but that's one of the... Oh. When you think the 90s, you think Brisbane Broncos, you think Canberra Raiders, and there's just so many gun players from those two teams in Australia.
Yeah. And we played them all.
And you beat them all. It's so good. How proud were you, though? Seeing someone like Terry Hermanson, Canterbury boy, steamrolling Darren Lockyer for a try in a big game.
No.
Must be awesome.
The one thing about Terry Hermanson, and he's like Brent Stewart.
Yeah.
Sometimes those two players never got the accolades they should have.
I agree.
Because of the big names like, Quinton and Johnny Lomax and Jason Larry and all that. We had so many good props around at that stage. But they were as good as any of them. Yeah. But you can only play the 3, Yeah. And someone had to miss out. But Terry should have played more tests.
Yeah.
He was injured in some that he would have got picked in.
For sure.
And other times it was just that, he's just coming off an injury or whatever, and others got the head in. But he never let the team down. Never let the black jersey down, ever.
Oh, he's one of my favourite props. I told him that on the podcast because, I just loved his aggressive, no frills, just straight at the line, no mucking around. You do not want to run at him either.
When he first played for Canterbury, I picked him for Canterbury, I played him at centre.
Yeah.
He was the biggest centre in the world.
I know. Imagine that running at you. You're a little skinny winger or centre. There's big Terry running at you.
Oh, yeah.
Have them try, buddy.
Not a good sight. Oh, yeah.
So also in 98, you went to England, 3 test series. You came home with 2 wins and a draw. An incredible test series to win over in England. Like, how proud, and what was the experience like?
Unreal. It was a real close tour, that. In fact, that's the only Kiwi team that's ever gone through well over 100 years of touring that's never been beaten on tour.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And we were, in the third test we drew, we were 7 points up.
Yep.
With 3 minutes to go.
Oh.
And the guy that got the drop goal to draw, Smithy, he was my 5'8" at Wigan.
Oh, really?
An ex-Castleford lad. And he said to me, "Oh, Frank, I feel so bad." I said, "You lying bugger." He said, "It's the first drop goal I've ever done in my life."
Well, why'd you have to pull that out today?
I know. I'll give it to him. Don't worry about that. But no, it was a great tour, yeah. Unbeaten in England. And only the 3 teams have ever gone over there and won series.
Yeah.
In over 100 years, and we were one of them.
I remember getting up real early in the morning to watch those. Yeah. Because back in the day, they were on TV3, and you could get up and watch them.
Yeah. Oh, great.
They were on early hours of the morning, but I'd get up and watch every one of them. It was fantastic. I remember Daryl Halligan was on the wing, I think.
Daryl, he's fantastic.
Such an underrated guy. I was so happy to see him with the Kiwis. Yeah.
He lined up a goal just on half time at Bolton Stadium in the first test. And when he put the kick down, it was just inside halfway, wet night, right on the sideline, and all the crowd started laughing.
Yeah.
And you're joking, yelling at me. I'll tell you what, it didn't take me long to all stood up and clapped him when he put it between the bar.
Was he not one of the greatest goal kickers we've ever seen?
No, he wouldn't be one of them. He'd be the best.
There you go.
Yeah,
he's unreal.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story about him. So you get me going on stories.
I love stories.
We're in Papua New Guinea.
Yep.
And at the end of training, before the second test, and I was out there with the manager, with Ray Heffenden, and we were, and Daryl said, "Frank, we're getting on the bus." He said, "Can I just have 10 minutes just to do a couple of kicks before the I said, "Go for it, Daryl."
Yep.
So I stood there and watched him. And he put 3 balls down on the sideline, on the left side, kicked the whole 3 over, never missed. Went to the right side, 3 more, straight over, no problem at all.
Yep.
And then he said, "Nearly there," and he put 3 right in front of the post, 15 metres out, and he hit the left upright. I thought, I didn't say anything, never said anything. Lined the second one up, hit the left upright again. I'm thinking, what's going on here? Put the third one down, hit the left upright again. And I said to Ray, I said, "Bloody hell." I said, "What's going on here?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "He's just hit the upright 3 times in a row and he's kicked 6 from the sidelines." And he started laughing and he said, "That's his accuracy test."
Oh, wow.
He was aiming at it for his accuracy.
That's amazing.
Best kicker I've ever seen.
Far out. My greatest memory of Daryl Halligan's goal kicking, 1998 semi-final against Parramatta.
Oh,
the Great Escape. He's got to kick like 3 from the sideline.
Yeah.
He gets the first 2. The third one, it looks like it's going to go slightly left, and then it just sort of holds its line and goes over, and Bulldogs go on into the grand final. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I'll tell you something else, though. He was an underrated player.
He was. He just scored a lot of tries,
He wasn't just a goal kicker, mate. He was a bloody good winger, too. And people say, "Oh, he wasn't fast." I'll tell you what, you race him over 100 metres. Over 100 metres. He mightn't be quick over that 10, 15. Yeah. Over 100 metres, he was hard to catch.
Get him a full head of steam.
Oh, yeah, great guy, Daryl.
Amazing. Right, 99. You took the Kiwis into the Tri-Series against Australia and Great Britain. You knocked over Australia 24-22. I actually remember that. And then you went down 22-20 in the final. That was another. I thought you guys had it in the bag, and there was a late try, wasn't there?
You're onto it.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
we were up. So do I. We were up 24-4. At half time. It was 24-0 actually, and they scored a late one. It was 24-4 at half time, and then they come back, and I remember saying to our players, one thing you can guarantee, these guys are going to come back at us.
Absolutely.
So we're going to have to be our best on defence. Well, they got back to 24-22. And we beat them in that game.
Yes.
But in the final, I thought we played even better. And we had, I think it was 3 tries disallowed.
Wow.
All by the Paul brothers.
Oh.
And if you have a look at them, they were pretty tough decisions to take. But the worst one was, we knew that if we got the draw, we won the tri-series final, right?
Right.
Okay. And there were 2 points in it. And in the last minute of play, Henry Poole, and you can go back and look at the video of this, Henry Poole puts up a little bomb under the post, but no one ever mentioned it. He gets late tackled after he's kicked it by Brian Fletcher, the back rower from South Sydney.
I know him well.
Brian, good guy, comedian, but he hit him with everything. It should have been a penalty for the late tackle. But they all looked at the ball coming down, the referee and everyone else, and Logan Swan caught it and went down, but he got caught about that far from the ground. It wasn't a try. We're not suggesting it was. And they blew it for full time. But we should have got... I had the 2 New Zealand line umpires on about that in the New Zealand League offices a couple of days after it, and I showed them. And they were really upset about it.
Okay.
Because they said, honestly, we didn't even see that.
Right.
And I said, well, I did.
Yeah.
And the referee missed it too, Russell Smith from England.
Oh, yes. He was actually a good ref. I didn't mind him.
Russell was a great referee.
Yeah.
I loved him.
Yeah,
but he missed this.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And it should have given us the tri-series final. But you're going to take those, you know. You get good decisions, you get bad ones, and it was a bad one.
Yeah. But, amazing series, though. You know, you come within 2 points of winning.
Yeah.
But then the year 2000, you got off to a pretty rocky start. 52-0 flogging in the Anzac Test. Is that just one of those games that you're just up against it out of the box from the get-go, and it's just out of your control? What do you do on those games?
Well, that was the only game we've ever been thrashed in ever.
Yeah.
And every coach goes through that in their career. Thank goodness it was only once. It was a nightmare. It was actually a nightmare. And I tried to get Gerald Ryan, the New Zealand president, to pull the game.
Really?
Because we weren't going to get our English players. We're only going to get them in for one training run before the test.
Yep.
We had the judiciary and the NRL were at their very best.
Yeah.
That we had 3 players out through judiciary. Everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Right.
And leading up to that, and I said, Gerald, he said, Frank, I know what you're saying, but we've got to play it because of the money.
Yeah.
For New Zealand League. And I said, okay, we'll play it, but we're not at our best here. It was the worst preparation for a test out of all 35 tests.
Well, it showed, didn't it?
It showed.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things, and I made I was actually angry. And I said to the press conference afterwards, they harped on about it, and I said, listen, I'll make you a promise right now, this won't happen again.
Okay.
And it never. And we went from there to the World Cup, didn't we?
You did. And you absolutely flogged Lebanon, the Cook Islands, by 80 points or something crazy. You smashed France. And then you actually slaughtered England by 49-6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And you go into the World Cup final. So it's upward trajectory from here. What are your memories of the World Cup and thoughts going into the final against Kangaroos?
Well, we won our first 3 games very well. We were like clockwork. Then we played England. I thought we played our grand final against England.
That old problem.
Because what we did, we beat them by a record score. The English coach, Johnny Kerr, got sacked after that. He was a good man, a good coach.
Yep.
But because of the result, that's what they do over there. We went. I was confident in that final.
Yeah.
The rain started coming down. I thought this is going to suit us. Old Trafford. I just thought we were on fire. Yeah, and we went there, and I think it was 6 points in it at half time, but all we did was tackle.
Okay.
And the energy, I looked around that dressing room at half time, and I knew that we'd spent a lot of energy.
Okay.
And to be within 6 points with a quarter of an hour left it was a credit to our players.
Yes.
And they went and scored 3 late ones or something, and the score blew out, which it should never have.
No, it didn't reflect the game.
No.
But 18-12 with 15 to go is very respectable in a final against the Kangaroos.
Honestly, Tony Carroll played well.
That's right. You got Tony Carroll in for that World Cup, because he's actually from Canterbury, isn't he?
Yeah, I played with his dad. And,
how did you get that over the line?
He was great. I rang Tony, and he said, he'd be honoured.
Yeah.
And I thought, bloody hell, this is a coup, this.
It is, because I always wondered how he managed to qualify for New Zealand.
No, well, he was born here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and his dad played in the schoolboy Kiwis with me in that test. He was a fullback.
I think he played Queensland Origin was why I was bemused how he was able to play for New Zealand. Yeah,
no, he qualified for New Zealand well and truly. But, he was a comedian. He played well. I remember after that, we got on the Turks because it was my last game as coach, and I made it known 6 months out. And we got on it that night. And I had to do a Sky TV interview live in the hotel room. Anyway, the next morning, and I'm doing this interview. Next minute, the door kicks open right in the middle of the interview, and here's Tony Carroll standing there in his full Kiwi outfit, boots the lot, and a headgear. He's full as a bull. He didn't know where he was. And he said, Frank, I said, what are you doing? Tony, I'm doing an interview. He said, Frank, I just want to tell you, he said, Coach, he didn't say Frank, he said, Coach, I just want to tell you, he said, I thought I let you down last night. He said, I'm here to apologise. I said, Tony, get out the door. He never let anyone down. He was fantastic. Every one of them were. You know, those wee things went wrong for us, and yeah.
So from what I read online, you were actually offered a 2-year extension as Kiwi coach. You said you were giving up 6 months out, but you decided to walk away. So what was the thoughts behind all of that, and was it a hard decision?
Yeah, it was, because I actually love the Kiwis. Yeah. And still do. I'd coached them for 7 years, and I thought another 2. I thought the players, I just thought they might have needed a new voice.
Okay.
I think you can be around too long, and I did give everyone 6 months' notice.
Okay.
But part of me wanted to take the extra 2 years too. Yeah. I wanted to, but Wiz took over after me, and it was just the way it went. You know, I would have loved to gone out with a grand World Cup final, but making 2 World Cups was something special anyway.
Very special, very great to have that in the resume at the end of your career. You know, so instead of carry on Kiwi coach, you actually went over to the UK and you took over the UK glamour club Wigan. So how did that opportunity come about, and how exciting is it to fly to the UK to be the Wigan coach?
Well, actually, it happened at midnight one night, and I was sound asleep in bed.
Okay.
And the phone was beside me bed, and the phone went at midnight. I thought, who's this? I turned on the light, and I answered. It was Maurice Lindsay, the chairman of Wigan, and he was also chairman of English Rugby League at the time. And his words were, Frank, he said, I wonder if you'd be interested in coming over for 1 year to coach Wigan. And I said, why is that, Maurice? And he said, I've just sacked my coach, and he was a top player for Great Britain. He just sacked the coach. He said, we've got a great team here. We've just finished 5th in the competition, which is not good for Wigan. No, not. And he said, the worst thing is the players are walking around, his words, looking at the ground, trying to find sixpences. That's what he said. Really? In other words, everyone was walking around with their head down. Right. So he said, would you be able to come and turn the environment round? I said, mate, I'll be swimming over from tonight. I said, really? I'll be. Leave it with me. I'm on the first plane. Yeah, I didn't even ask what the pay was. I would have done it for nothing. I was just so to coach the most famous club in the world. It's pretty good, isn't it? To be given that opportunity and knowing it was just going to be for a year, I thought, So I went over there, and first thing I did was meet the players. Yeah. And geez, they had some great players in that room. They did. But their heads were down.
Okay.
And I could sense it. So I'd worked with Dennis Betts before, and he had wise a few of them up at what I was like, and what, you know. And anyway, I thought I need to do something about this. This is at the start of the pre-season. So I went into Morris's office and I said, Morris, I need £20,000.
Really?
And he said, what for?
That's not chump change.
No. I said, there's a long weekend coming up, and I said, I want to take this team to Dublin for 3 days on a training camp. And he said, done. You've got it.
Training camp.
So I walked back into the players and I said, players, just to let you know, we're going on a training camp to Dublin. We're going to get to know each other. Don't bring any training gear.
That's what I thought.
I said, don't tell anyone.
That's what I thought.
So we went over there and we stayed in a place called right in the heart of Dublin.
Right.
Well-known place. Yeah. Anyway, we're right in the middle of it. So I've never, seen so many pints down in all my life, but I was a little bit on the crafty side.
Okay.
And they thought I was drinking more than I actually was, because I was trying to go around every player and get to know them.
Okay.
And sometimes the drink brings the best out of their personalities out. So anyway, it worked brilliantly, and we got back the happiest team in Super League.
Okay.
And brought them together in one weekend. And the training run started, and I thought, boy, Jesus, this is... It cut a long story short, we won the championship.
Yeah.
Made the grand final, got beat stiff again in the grand final at Old Trafford against St Helens.
Yes.
Sean Hoppy scored a try in that game.
Oh, your old Warriors.
Made it
Kiwi
worse.
boy.
Yeah.
Oh, gutted.
But it was a great game of rugby league. And we could have just as easy won it. And I got British Coach of the Year.
That's amazing.
So I thought, well, hell, my year's been great. It'll be something I'll never forget. What an experience. We'd only lost 3 games all year.
Oh, no, and there was one you could have lost, but thank you to Steve Renoff for... It put you guys top of the ladder with about 5 or 4 rounds to go.
Yeah.
What is there? 20 seconds to go.
Yeah.
You go the length of the field essentially off a Willie Peters pass out to Steve Renoff. He breaks the line and puts the fullback over for the most incredible. And you got to kick the goal, Andy Farrell. Tell us about that moment.
It's interesting you say that, Dave, because I watched that the other day on video. I do it every so often. And it brings the hairs up on my neck every time I watch it.
I've seen it twice in my life, and every time, because I feel the drama of rugby league and things in life, but I get tingles watching like those moments. Imagine being in the crowd though. Oh my God.
I'll never forget the crowd that night. They just went crazy.
I would have gone nuts.
I can still, Dean Bell was sitting next to me.
Yeah.
Because he relayed my messages for me. And I said, Dean, we've still got to get the kick to win this. He said, Frank, I'll never forget his words. He said, Frank, if you ever wanted anyone to take this kick, it's Andy Farrell.
He was a great kicker.
And his son was pretty good too.
Yeah.
And never looked like missing.
No.
And the crowd went absolutely crazy. The Bradford coach was Matthew Elliott.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, this poor bugger. I see it now. I felt for him. I didn't at the time, but I do now. And the crowd gave it to him, and he lost it.
Right.
And because they had that game won.
Yeah,
we should never have won it. But it was just the classiest centre in the world, and Steve Renoff. What a player!
And how lucky were you to inherit the side? Was Steve Renoff at the side when you turned up, or did you buy him as a player that year?
No, I spoke to Morris about some of the signings, and we had to agree. I remember there was one, without mentioning names, he was going to. I said, no, I don't want him. Okay. But Steve, you take every day of the week. Matthew Johns, Andrew Lamb.
Steve Renoff. How did you get him?
Well, everyone wanted to go to Wigan.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, the highest paid club in the world and the most famous club in the world. Okay. You had to go there. You couldn't say no to them.
That was during a time where going to England was very fashionable for NRL players at the end of their career.
Yeah. It's a bit different now. But the scenes in those days, the top 4 or 5 Super League English clubs would have been able to hack it in the NRL.
Yeah.
Guys like Andy Farrell, coaching the Irish rugby team now, it shows you how good he is. he had a brilliant brain on him. He was an honour. It was a privilege coaching a guy like him because you didn't have to do much coaching to him. You know, he was the most talented player in England.
Leader.
Yeah, born leader.
Yeah.
Born. Yeah.
I used to fear him every time the Kiwis played Great Britain or England because he was always in the side. And I said, such a good player.
I still have him on though. You know, he was captain of that Great Britain and England sides. I think we might have had 9 or 10 Test matches against the Kiwis, and they never beat us once.
Oh, amazing.
Not once.
Take that.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, fantastic. So the following season didn't go so well. So did you extend for a second season? How did that come about? Because you didn't actually see out the season.
No. Well, not many coaches do it. But I knew I was going over there for 1 year, and we had such a great year. Morris called me into the office and said, "Frank, what you've done is just turned the club around." He said, "I'd like to offer you another 2 years."
Okay.
I said, "Oh, make it 10." He said, "I will do 2." And I said, 2, done.
Done.
Now, I didn't know, and I found out later that Morris was in he only wanted me for 1 year because he had already promised a job to Aaron Raper.
Oh, yes.
From Castleford.
Yes.
Because before I got there, Castleford beat Wigan the previous year, 3 out of 3. Now, that never happens.
No.
Never happens. So he obviously done a pretty good job, Aaron.
Yep.
Right? Now, I didn't know this until a couple of players wised me up to it later. But he felt committed for the fans. Would have killed him if they let me go after 1 year.
Absolutely.
So a strong pack of fans over there. So he offered me 2 years, and he would have been just waiting for that time to put me off.
Okay.
That's a fact of it.
Yep.
And when I got the bullet, we were in 3rd place by 1 point from second and 3 points from first. We would have gone better that year than we did in the previous year. You know how sometimes you go through a little rocky. You're only getting beat by 2 points and 4 points. You only lost a couple of games. We were still in 3rd place, 1 point behind second.
Far out.
And we were in 3rd place, and we had games coming up that I knew were just going to go up to first. You know.
Wow.
But that's, you know, you expect that. You expect that, and I had no hard feelings. It was one thing about Morris. I'll say he honoured every penny he committed.
Right.
You know, there was nothing. You know, he paid what he promised.
Right.
So
a little disappointing. Could have had a potential championship there.
Yeah, the most disappointing thing I could have seen myself there 5-6 years.
Right.
Easy. I love Wigan. Oh, what a great place. I still get many Wigan fans texting me and Facebooking me and emailing me today.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I've still got a suitcase box of cards and letters that they wrote me when I was put off. They weren't happy at the time. They were terrific fans.
Would you have gone to another club if someone was interested?
That's interesting. I got offered a job at Warrington.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Didn't know that.
3 years, yeah. The Member of Parliament, Lord Hoyle, called me around to his house. What a lovely gentleman he was. And he offered me 3. I spoke to Joan about it. I would have loved to go on there because it's a good club.
Yeah.
And I actually know the owner well, Simon Moran. But at the time, I sort of made up my mind. I was that disappointed, you know, Wigan and that. So I come home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to good old Christchurch.
Yeah.
Nice. But that wasn't the end of the story because you went back to Widnes in 2005 for a little stint over there. Yeah. So how did the Widnes journey come along?
Oh, well, it's funny because Terry Hermanson had a pub, a sports bar in Edgware called the Edgware Sports Bar.
Okay.
And cut a long story short, he asked me if I wanted to buy it.
Right.
And I said, yeah. So we done a deal and I bought it.
Okay.
Little family business. It was great.
Perfect.
Had it for about 10 months. But what happened was I was behind the bar this night, had a couple, and the phone went and it was the boss at Widnes.
Okay.
And his words were, "Frank, would you be keen on coming over for the last 5 games of the season?"
Okay.
He said, "We're in a real battle here for relegation, real battle."
So is that to go up or they were going to fall out? They were going to fall out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I said, okay, 5 games. I'd have to fly out straight away. So I said, okay, I'll have a look and I'll ring you back. And I had a look. I said to Joan, have a look at this. I said, they got no shot. I said, they got 5 of the hardest games to play in the last 5.
Oh my God.
And they're getting hammered. And they've just sacked their coach, the poor buggers. And I said, well, she said, you won't get a bigger challenge than that. I said, oh, you've put the seat in my head now. Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
So I rang back and said, look, I'll come over for the last 5 games. Went over there. I thought I've got to make an immediate impact here. I can't. There's no gently getting into it. This is straight away, you know. First game we played was Huddersfield Giants, and they were in 4th position.
Okay.
Top 4. They come to our place at Widnes, and we beat them.
Wow.
Just charge them up for that one game. But our next one's at home also, and the next 3 were away. But the next one at home was Wigan. The top side.
Oh my God.
And Morris was there. And
Your old joint.
Yeah, and they all turned up in a star-studded team. Well, we really got our boys charged up.
Yeah.
Really did everything possible. They went out there and beat Wigan.
No way.
Yeah, they did, mate.
No way.
Honestly, it was one of the biggest wins ever.
That's
it was the biggest
amazing.
upset of the year in Super League.
I bet. I mean, a lot of punters didn't do very well that day.
Oh, no. Well, some of ours did. But two wins out of 2. We've got 3 games to go. And we got beaten the next one by 1 point. The next one by 4 points. And it all got down to the last game. Hull.
Of course it did.
Hull at Hull.
Oh my God. That's not an easy trip.
We had to finish within 4 points. And Wakefield had to beat Castle or something. I can't remember. Anyway, they did their job for us. But we had to stay within 4 points. We got beat by 2.
Oh. So just about
got keys to the city. Honestly, we were bloody heroes, and I'll never get the people of Widnes were so happy, you know. And I thought, oh, it was worth it coming over because they're wonderful people. It's a real rugby league town, Widnes.
Yes.
So I come home, and then Tom Fleet rings me again from over there and says, Frank, would you come back over on a 2-year contract? And I thought, oh no! So as it was, I had to sell the pub to go over, and which I did, and I went over. I wish now I hadn't have.
Okay.
Even though I enjoyed Widnes, I wish now I hadn't have because they had no time to put a real good, strong squad together.
Okay.
And there was relegation that year too.
Yeah.
But what made it worse for them? 2 things. In all my coaching career, I've never, ever, it was the only time I've ever had a real bad injury rate. We went through 38 players.
38?
30.
That is phenomenal.
Ended up playing guys just out of school, really.
Wow.
And I'll say to their credit, they all tried their guts out.
Yep.
But it was like boys playing men at the time, you know, and they tried hard, but we struck, but we didn't finish last. But we finished second to last. But there were 2 teams for the first time ever relegated to bring the French team in.
Right, that's the Catalan Dragons.
So they were stiff Widnes. And you look where they are today, you know, and they deserve better than that.
Yeah, they do.
deserve
better. There's
so
much history, like Canterbury connection. Asini Famalo, you know him very well. You know, like hearing about the great Widnes days, and
Kevin Tamati played there.
Yeah, and I've been chatting to guys like Kurt Sorensen, Jim Mills, and all the great legends of rugby league.
Well, I hear from Jim a lot.
Yeah.
He's a bloody great guy.
Yeah, I got to know John Devereaux. They all play for Widnes.
That's right.
It's crazy.
At Norton Park.
Yeah, so good. Incredible. Okay, so you came back home. You were made a life member of Canterbury Rugby League and New Zealand Rugby League, and you were made an officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit for services to rugby league. So, you know, you've also been given or bestowed with a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017, and you're also awarded Sporting Legends of Canterbury status in 2018 at the Canterbury Sports Award. So when you look back at your career and you see all these amazing accolades, like, no, how proud are you of what you've achieved during your life?
Oh, look, it's been a dream. It's been a dream. Rugby league's been good to me, and I've been good to them. It's been a 2-way mix. But I make it very clear, Dave. I could never have done what I've done if it wasn't for all the good players I've coached that gave me everything, and my family. Yeah, you know, without those 2, I could never have done it. So the support from all those guys, and I still have it today, and great relationships with them. You know, like the Canterbury reunion. Just when you get together, the stories keep coming out and the drinks go down, and it's one of the best feelings ever, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's fantastic, man. Right. I'm going to finish with my few fun questions I ask every guest on the show. So who do you think is going to win the NRL in 2024?
Ooh, gee, I'll go out on a limb and say Roosters.
The Roosters, I like that. We've been toying with the Roosters, the Panthers, and the Storm. I think they're really the only genuine threats.
Yeah, I do too.
I like the Roosters because they've done the damage already this year. They're in the top three. Yeah. They don't have to make a late run. They've got a great side. Yeah,
I think injuries are going to play a part. But so it's going to who's got the most depth in the squad, and I think the Roosters. And I think Melbourne always tough.
They're always there.
Penrith and Roosters have got the most depth.
Okay. Yeah,
for backup if they do get an injury.
And Panthers have missed Cleary now for 7 or 8 weeks.
They're still winning.
And they're still in second by one win. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, it's a lot said for Ivan Cleary. You know,
he's amazing.
Terrific. Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Okay, who do you actually support in the NRL? Is it the Warriors?
Yes, Warriors.
Well, I thought that would be the case. So, so completely away from rugby league, what's your favourite TV show or TV series of all time?
Oh, well, films or series?
Like a TV show.
I'm watching the Vikings at the moment.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I really enjoy that. Now, what's the last? This is the third series.
Yes.
So, the Vikings will be one of them.
Awesome, love it. Yeah. Frank Endacott says Vikings. How good. I did not pick that.
Windows Vikings.
All right, last question, man. If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, gee. And you had to have it all the time for the rest of your life?
Every time. What's your favourite meal, essentially?
Oh, I suppose just a simple, nice steak, mashed potato, onion and peas.
You old boys love that meal, don't you? Yeah. Everyone says that.
I don't mind spaghetti and meatballs either.
Oh, mate, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for giving me your time. Coming on the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast, hearing all the great stories, has been an absolute privilege for me. I've really enjoyed this. It's been amazing.
Likewise, Dave. Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thank you for everyone for watching at home. Make sure you get on the Facebook group, Point of Difference Rugby League, and we'll see you all there for kick-off.
Full time.